Now they're bringing out computers that will interact with you and literally watch you. Your behavior. It will study your behavior because you will fit into a certain system of behaviors, multiple behaviors that the computer is fed. And it tries to put you in different categories, you see. And eventually they'll ask you, how are you feeling, George? And you'll talk to it. Now these things are already here. Some programs are already out. They're putting them out now. And if you're slouching, it'll tell you you're slouching. Why are you slouching? Are you tense? Why are you tense? What's on your mind? Just like HAL, the computer that you saw in 2001, A Space Odyssey. Now tie that in with last night's program where I talked about the coming new healthcare system in the US, where you're going to get basically what you're going to pay for through your taxes will be advice from doctors, or maybe if they're avatars, who knows, that will come along too, on the internet. A massive project, already obviously designed, ready to go. They never mention these things that they want to do something. They always have it up and ready to go. When they want to do it, that's when they mention it. They've already trained the public to do with nursing stand-ins for doctors for lesser health care for quite a few years. Well, now you're going to get basically the same kind of thing, but it's via the internet. They say it's in real time. And of course, you must have a camera and all the rest of it to see the doctor, or perhaps, as I say, maybe even his avatar or somebody who says he's a doctor. That's going to be that. Now you tie that in. You tie that in with the computer's program that's observing you. Now, supposing it thinks you have a bit of stress there, that's automatically relayed to the health authorities. Now, supposing that program decides or sends off to them that it thinks you might be coming out with violent stress. What do you think is going to happen then? It's going to be a whole new form of policing. A whole new form of policing. We already have a type of this policing in some parts of the US and elsewhere, where social workers and informants in society spy on each other, on the citizenry, I should say. Neighbors are taught that, and to report people who are behaving a bit oddly, and in comes this team of social workers, little sort of SWAT teams of social workers, and accompanied by policemen, and they go into people's homes and start demanding answers to various questions. Now they can actually just monitor you on a daily basis by not just how you behave in front of the computer, or what you're watching at, what sites you're looking at, and how it's affecting you, but also by your email contents and all that kind of stuff. That will help train the public to be like the kind of character that George Orwell puts in his book 1984, Winston. Winston's character was someone who was trained from youth to show no expression whatsoever. Never show dilation of the pupils through fear or excitement. Never show any expression when you hear any kind of information passed to you, even if it sounds absolutely crazy. Because those are dangerous things to show, because everything's on camera. And now you have computers, as I say, which can read those particular little signs. They're using them at airports. You all know that too, don't you? It was only a natural thing they would use it in your home computers as well. And they've made computers pretty well mandatory, haven't they? It was one of these things that came along and they say, well, man's always adapted to science. And then they give you the examples of how we got the horse and cart, And then they go on to that too. Well, forget too that most folk didn't have a horse or a cart. You had to have a pretty good money in the old days to have a horse in Europe. Or nobility. In some places you'd be arrested if you're on a horse, if they suspected you were not nobility. And then they'll say, well, then we had the ships. Well, not everybody could afford to go on a ship either. So not everybody's life was changed by it directly. And then they had the steam engine and so on, and that brought a lot of little towns along in its wake. But the folk didn't sit there and talk about the railways all day long. They didn't go and sit in the tracks all day long. They gave you the computer after TV, which got you ready for it, and you can sit for hours, maybe the whole darn day on it. Complete behavior alteration. And you take it all for granted. But not only that, they make it almost in fact, it's really now a priority to have one. And shortly will be when you go completely cashless. Because everything that you need, and even your bank account, is basically weaponized. And by that I mean it can be used as a weapon against you. And you have no terms to dictate anything you'll notice in this world. Any agreement you make with anybody out there, any bank or whatever, even your internet service provider, and all of this kind of stuff. You read all the contents, look at the programs you download and agree to. May vary according to the owners, blah, blah, blah. You have no rights whatsoever. And the same thing goes when they go cashless and you have to have a bank account. And you must use all your bank access, purchasing and so on via the bank. Most folk already do it today already with their cards, so they're already trained to do it. You got to stand back from society and study society. It's not difficult at all. You must look at what you're looking at without taking it for granted. I remember when I first saw people, I generally never went into big stores and even big grocery stores. And when I first saw people one after another in line taking out their card and swiping it through, I was really kind of shocked to see it. They were doing it as they do it every day. To me, that was a foreign thing to see. As though they're all trained to do it. It's no different than swiping your hand past a machine and that palm print or whatever will be you and it's drawn right off that palm print. See, you've been trained bit by bit, right down to the hand to use it. Swipe it past this, swipe it past that. And they accept and adapt and accept and adapt without question. Computers, I've always said this too. They could have given you the final version of the computer before they go into the cloud, and that's how it's working out to be. The computers that are out now will be the last versions of their type before the cloud comes totally, completely in and takes over everything. They could have given you the final high-speed version that you're buying today at the very beginning, 15, 20 years ago, because they could have done it then. They had the ability, they had the technology to do it. They were already giving it to very high sections of the CIA. And the NSA had all that too. They were not sitting with big tape machines like they love to show you in the old movies. But they dish it out piece by piece to train you along the way that you're just gradually evolving along a certain path. If they gave you the latest thing at the very beginning, you'd have been stunned and shocked. Especially if they told you that all your data was going to be collected and gathered for every single thing that you did on that computer. No, they give you piece by piece. And then 6 months later, you tell you as well, it's kind of obsolete. It's a bit faster now. And all the companies churn out the same faster stuff at the same time. And no one says, isn't that weird if they're all competing? How come they're always out with the same stuff at the same time? Do you really think all these separate companies are really there to compete with each other? All these big companies, big electronic, it looks like General Electric, you think it's there to make nice light bulbs for you. I can remember when they showed you the cannon, the rotary cannon that the General Electric had created because its biggest parts for the military industrial complex, like all of these electronic companies are. And the cannon fired so many rounds per minute, you didn't hear the individual shots, you just heard this hum.